Hello, I'm Colleen, and let's rank Shakespeare's tragedies. Now, if you've been following my channel, you may have seen that I am doing sort of a Shakespeare heavy reading year. I did a video about all the Shakespeare plays I want to read this year, which are mostly comedy focused, but I did have one tragedy on the list, which I read this month, and now I feel like I can rank Shakespeare's tragedies. Now, I haven't read all of them. I have not yet read Timon of Athens or Coriolanus, I think is how you say it. And then Troilus and Cressida is sometimes a tragedy and it's sometimes a comedy, so I'm not exactly sure where to put that, but I haven't read it yet, so it doesn't matter. I'm going to start by saying I do enjoy reading all of Shakespeare's tragedies. There's no tragedies on this list that I'm like, oh, I really didn't like that book at all, or that play at all, but some I definitely enjoy more than others. So we're going to start from the bottom and go to the top, of course. Number 8 is Julius Caesar, which is actually the play I read this month. And it wasn't that I didn't like it. I thought it was fine. It just definitely wasn't my favorite. I don't know if this was mainly because I already know the story of Julius Caesar really well, so there was no real surprises when it came to what was happening. I do think this is a play that would be interesting to watch because there are like a lot of good monologues, and I feel like watching the characters play off each other would be great. I did listen to an audio version on Spotify by the BBC Shakespeare sessions and read the play as well, and I thought it was well acted, but still just not one of my favorites. Number 7 is Titus Andronicus, which I actually really like this play quite a bit, considering that often it's listed as one of Shakespeare's worst plays. It's definitely a very violent play. So it's basically about a Roman general, Titus Andronicus, and Tamara, who's queen of the Goths, and them just trying to destroy each other's families. There's a lot of like feeding one their own children, cutting out tongues. It's a bloody play, but it's still really good. And I really like Tamara. She's a great, Shakespeare has really good tragic heroines, I feel like, and she's a great one. Number 6 for me is King Lear, which a lot of people say that's the best Shakespeare play ever written. And I think it's good, but it just doesn't hold me as some of the other ones do. If you don't know King Lear, it's about a man who messes up, basically, with his daughters. He has 3 daughters. One's a good person, and the other 2 are not. But the one who's a good person sort of slights him, so he decides to give the other 2 his kingdom, and it leads to his downfall. And it's a good read. It's a good read. I've never seen it acted, and I think it would be another one that would be really fun to watch being acted out. Number 5 is Hamlet, and I almost put Hamlet last because I don't really like Hamlet that much, but I do really enjoy the character of Ophelia. I feel like she's often overlooked, and she definitely deserved a better ending than the one she got. I mean, the man she was in love with murdered her father. That's a hard thing to deal with. Hamlet also, you get the to be or not to be, which I feel like sometimes that maybe if that wasn't so like saturated in our brains from a young age, that it would have more effect when you read it. I've read Hamlet, I think 2 times. I've read a lot of these plays a bunch of times because I majored in literature in college, and I also read a lot of Shakespeare in high school. So a lot of these plays I've read more than once. And Hamlet was one that I sort of thought was good both times, but didn't love. Since you've made it halfway through my list, I want to know what your favorite Shakespearean tragedy is, and please post it in the comments. So now we get into my top 4. Number 4 being Antony and Cleopatra. Antony and Cleopatra is the first Shakespeare play I read for fun. I read it when I was in high school after I read Romeo and Juliet because my mom had a copy that she had saved when she was in college. And so I was like, I want to read another Shakespeare. So I read that. But the reason I really love Antony and Cleopatra is because when I was a junior in high school, my Brit Lit teacher, who was a Jesuit priest, took our class to see Antony and Cleopatra at the Chicago Shakespeare Theater at Navy Pier, and it was amazing. So I went to a Catholic high school, obviously, and when we got there, Cleopatra, who was like so hot, she was such a great actress, walked out in the first scene, and her costume under the light was completely transparent, so she's basically naked on stage. And I remember everyone in our class being like, which I'm sure my teacher had the same reaction, but it was so well acted, and it made me really love that story, which I feel like not a lot of classrooms do Antony and Cleopatra. I never studied it in school, but it's a really good play. It's a good story. If you haven't read it, I recommend it. Number 3 is Othello. Now, as you can tell, I do really like tragic romances, and I really like Othello a lot. I love the sort of paranoia and madness that comes out in Othello, of just like he's just being driven insane by Iago. And I really like Desdemona also, another heroine I feel really bad for, because she and Ophelia both don't have, any control over their lives, obviously. And it's got a wonderful tragic ending. Of course. I would really like to see Othello acted out. I think that would be an awesome play to see acted out. Number 2 is Romeo and Juliet. And you can blame Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes and Baz Luhrmann for my lifelong obsession with Shakespeare, because this Baz Luhrmann edition of Romeo and Juliet came out when I was, I think, 13 years old. And I was head over heels obsessed with it. I could not get over how much I loved the play, how much I loved the actors, obviously. And then I read it, and it just engulfed me. And I've read Romeo and Juliet, I think, 3 different times, and seriously enjoyed it every single time. I mean, I don't get sick of that story. I feel like if I read it right now, I'd love it just as much, because it's just such a wonderful, tragic love story. And lastly, number 1, my favorite Shakespeare play of all time is Macbeth, because Lady Macbeth is the best anti-heroine of all time. She's so wonderful. I love reading her descent into madness. I love the witches. I love the battle. I love watching Macbeth fall. And another thing I really like about Macbeth is sort of the folklore surrounding it. So we have this play that has taken a life of its own in the theater world. There's all these rules about whether or not you can say Macbeth and whether you should say the Scottish play. Obviously, I'm not an actor, so I just say Macbeth. I don't say the Scottish play. But there's all these like urban legends sort of about bad things happening when the production of Macbeth is going on, or people say the name Macbeth backstage, which I think is really cool. Macbeth is a play I have never seen on stage for real. I did see like a version of it at a Renaissance fair, which was okay because they had to cut it down to like an hour, so they had to cut a ton of plot, but it was still fun to see. I'd love to go back to see more plays at the Chicago Shakespeare Theater, but Navy Pier is not my most favorite place to go in Chicago. If you've ever been there, it's like really crowded, and I don't love crowds. So if I'm lucky, maybe there'll be some Shakespeare in the Park near where I live this summer, which would be really nice and fun to do. I'm not going to do a comedy video yet because I haven't read that many of the comedies, and I feel like I need to get a few more under my belt before I can actually rank them. Right now it would be like 4, 5 maybe comedies that I've actually read. So we're going to wait till the end of the year. I've got 3 comedies on my list for 2022, and then I'll have a few more done and feel like I can give you a better, more well-rounded list. Don't expect getting a ranking of the histories anytime soon because I don't really enjoy those, so I'm going to really have to force myself to read more of those. I hope you are having a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night, and that you're about to read some Shakespearean tragedy or listen to it or watch it and dream of talking to skulls or witches. Have a good day.